Second report. Research and recovery. Aromatic vapors effused through Mr. McCallan's bedroom as he laid on his bed bearing an expression of relief. The previous day, he had stopped by a clinic for a checkup, just to be on the safe side considering the levels of hazardous vapors he had been exposed to. Between the volcanic smoke he had been accustomed to, and the odorless toxin that had actually made him dizzy, these aromatherapy oils he had picked up were more than welcome for his respiration. Such a blissful expression was a rare sight to appear on the stalwart scientist's face. Ironically, it had only visited his face this day due to the dangerous sequence of events and pleasure. The stress of his career was shown in the grays of his hair, yet here he was smiling after what he had been through. Sadly, however, this uncharacteristically cheerful moment would eventually have to come to an end. Already awake, Mr. McCallan rose from his bed of roses and simultaneously lifted a cell phone out of his pocket. After dialing the number of the geothermal plant's manager, Mr. Watson, a concerned voice responded. "Hey, I hear you're alright. I got your message, but I didn't want to bother you if you were resting." The man was referring to the brief recap of events that Mr. McCallan sent to his voicemail box. Furthermore, he had requested that a team of well-protected scientists head over to the site at the specified coordinates, so that they could collect samples themselves. Adrian paused for a moment, appreciating the genuine concern in his client's voice, and responded, "Thanks. Appreciate the thought, Mr. Watson. Well, since you got my message, how soon can you get a team over there?" Mr. Watson responded back with, "Actually, you sound pretty urgent about it even after saying you breathed some in, so I already sent a few guys with top-of-the-line gas masks." Adrian had been delayed in the completion of his report, and the real intent of his request was so that the area could be gated off to prevent even an unlikely passerby from falling into harm's way. Hence, it was comforting to have his waiting client ready to cooperate. "Hold on a sec, Mr. McCallan," the manager suddenly stated. Curious but understanding, the geoscientist waited patiently 20 seconds before suddenly hearing, "I'm back, and so are they." "So are who?" Mr. McCallan inquired. "The team, sir. Seems like it went rather smoothly. Want me to ask them for a first impression before you analyze it yourself?" The geoscientist pondered for a moment, and calmly responded, "No, that won't be necessary. Best if I don't rely on first impressions and preconceptions before analyzing it myself. I'll be right there to pick it up in an hour." With that, the call was soon over, and Adrian felt he had earned another moment on his bed. Looking at his phone, he noticed that he had a few voicemails from a Mr. Carl Solon. "3 from him. How long was I out?" He played the first message, which sounded like a standard request for the analysis of soils in a field where plants of medical interest were grown. Well, that sounds like a walk in the park compared to what I actually ended up doing yesterday." More importantly, however, was that the second message was basically saying the same thing, but with more urgency, as if this Carl character had a desperate need to find out what was going on. "Geez, would it kill you to be patient? Well, if it's that important, I guess I can call him back and—" But just like that, apparently Mr. Solon had already lost patience, because his third message stated that he ended up getting a scientist from Vital Laboratories to pitch in. Mr. McCallan just sat there on his bed, wearing an irritable, perplexed expression in response to this man's lack of respect. It actually took him a few seconds before realizing that he had already heard the laboratory mentioned. He sighed, thinking aloud. "Seriously? The same place as Lucy? Well, at least I didn't have to deal with him. I'm sure I can laugh about it with her later, when this is all taken care of."